I was surprised when my husband asked me about our horse. I had no idea that a normal day on our quiet farm would become something that would completely shock me. Along with our horse, who's been a part of our little family for years. My husband and I have always loved animals very much. The way he moves, listens, and seems to understand us, without saying a word, is soothing. Something else, though, took the place of that calm one afternoon, and I still can't fully explain it. First, my husband had a look in his eyes that I had never seen before. He seemed like he was onto something big because he was excited and sparkly. He came up with what he thought was a great idea for something we could do with the horse. At first, I laughed because I thought it was one of his usual strange video ideas, or maybe just something new for the horse to do. I knew he wasn't kidding, as he went on to explain it. This wasn't a good idea.
What were we really going to do? It made me stop and think about it. I love him. I believe in him. But love can only go so far, especially when something doesn't feel right, when he said, "Just trust me. It'll be great." I could hear his voice getting softer, and maybe the most scary thing for me was how strongly he believed it, while I stood there doubting it. The horse stood nearby quietly, not noticing that things were getting worse between us. He seemed to know something was wrong, though.
As I looked from my husband to the camera he had set up, I kept thinking of the same question. Am I going to cross a line that I can't go back on? I stayed there for a while, not sure whether to walk away or get closer to the camera. My husband had already started to change the angles and talk about the lighting and how natural everything looked. He was so calm and focused that it looked like everything was fine. But I could feel my chest getting tighter. It was like my body was warning me before my mind could respond. It hit me when I saw how he moved with purpose. He had this planned for a while. We've always worked together. We helped with everything on the farm, from putting up fences to feeding the animals. That was something I liked about us. He was the one who came up with new ideas all the time to keep things interesting. I, on the other hand, was the one who kept those ideas in check. But I didn't like this idea this time. It wasn't about the video or the horse, something he was willing to go the extra mile for because he thought it could be great. People would listen to him say things like, "This will get their attention," or "No one's done this before." I began to question whether the goal was to share a sweet farm moment or simply go viral. When I looked at the horse, it was calm and steady, but his eyes were wide and his ears were flicking back. He could feel our energy, which made me feel even worse. "Just what do you want me to do?" I finally asked, and my voice was firm but not loud. He smiled at me like everything was okay and told me nothing too crazy. "Just be yourself. That bond between you and the horse. The camera will pick it up." But there was something off about the way he said it. A small pause. Some hesitation that wasn't like him. The lights were on, and the camera was already rolling. Suddenly, it didn't feel like just another video. It seemed bigger and stronger, like we were on the edge of something. We hadn't fully thought through. I moved my weight and looked back at my husband instead of at the horse again. For a split second, I wasn't sure who I was looking at because his eyes were on mine, hoping to find something. I tried to slow down my breathing, but I couldn't stop the questions that were running through my mind. What was the point of being so vague? Why did this make him feel worse than he was letting on? I saw him walk back over to the tripod and make a few small changes, as if getting the perfect shot were more important than how we felt about each other. It was quiet in the barn, except for the sound of the horse's hooves and the camera's faint hum. It seemed like something that hadn't been said was about to come to the surface. I calmed down by running my hand along the horse's neck. For me, this horse wasn't just a pet. He was family. He was there for me through all of it. Quiet nights, loud fights, laughter, and days when all I needed was someone to stand next to me. But now, he was in the middle of something he didn't understand. There was silence until my husband spoke. "Join us in standing here, just like we did before." I was unsure. Used before. We hadn't really done any work. He had talked about ideas before, but never something so specific. I moved my legs almost automatically as I took a step toward where he pointed. The horse moved a little, clearly uneasy because he could feel that something wasn't right. I could feel the same thing. Deep down, I asked again, "Tell me what we're doing." But all he said was, "Trust me." I needed him to be honest and explain it right. 2 words that used to make me feel better now made me feel stressed. I saw his face. Thoughts were there, along with something else I couldn't put my finger on. If this was really about us, or if it was to prove something to someone else, I didn't know. Maybe to people on the web. Maybe to himself. Still, I wanted to believe in him, like I always had. I wanted to get rid of my doubts. Now, though, something was different. He wasn't paying attention. He was too busy making something that made it feel more like a show than a moment with us. And the horse next to me, which was still moving around nervily, was showing me how I felt inside. He came back to me, softly, called my name, and told me to smile a little. That way, it would feel more natural. I did my best. What will happen if I keep going with this? That was all I could think about. What if I don't? I tried to stay calm as I stood there, but I felt tense all over what used to be my peaceful place. The barn now felt like a stage I hadn't agreed to walk on. My husband's voice kept telling me what to do. It sounded calm at first, but there was something more urgent and controlling in it. He waved his hand at the horse and said, "Come a little closer. We're almost there." I almost asked, but I was afraid of what I would hear. The horse moved again, clearly sensing that I was upset. He twitched his tail and ears back, so I put a soft hand on his neck to calm him down. He felt the change in energy too. Not just me. Animals can tell when something is wrong, and everything felt wrong right now. I looked at the camera one more time. The little red light on it was blinking, like it was recording everything. Not just the moment, but also every bit of doubt that was creeping up on me. I looked at my husband one more time. He was so focused, changing angles and lighting, and he was by himself the whole time. But it wasn't the kind of passion that got me excited. It was crazy making. At that point, I understood it wasn't longer about us. It had nothing to do with the video. It was about being in charge and seeing how far he could push me before I gave in. "Could we talk about this?" And I asked softly. He looked down. "We'll do it. Finish this first." I could hear the anger in his words, even though they were smooth. He seemed to need this shot, needed me to work with them, to show something to the whole world. He might keep it to himself. I wasn't sure I could keep going, though. Not like this. The horse gave a low snort and moved again, hitting me a little. I took a step to the side and hit my head on the wooden stall door. I couldn't breathe. My heart was beating faster than the camera's hum. Things were getting better. His stress, my fear, the horse's stress. When we stood on the edge of something, I wasn't sure which way it would fall. I knew this, though. There would be no going back once something broke. As I tried to calm down by steadying myself, I heard a sound that stopped me in my tracks, a light click. I knew that sound, even though it was very faint and hard to hear from behind the camera. It was more than just recording. The live stream was on because my husband turned it on. My stomach dropped. At first, I didn't believe it. Not a warning, not a heads up. There's no way to back out. He went live without telling me. All of a sudden, it wasn't just a video. We could change or delete. A lot of people were watching this happen in real time. On the side of the camera, the red light that blinks had changed. It wasn't just a record icon, it was a broadcast. "Wait," I said in a sharp voice that was almost too loud in the barn. "Are we still alive?" He didn't look at me, just made a few small changes to the tripod and pretended not to hear. He quickly said, "It's fine. Do not stop. Everything is fine." I said it louder now. "No. You went live without telling me. Did you? That was the first time I really saw it, when he looked up. It wasn't a mistake. It was done on purpose. He had this planned. He didn't give me a chance because he knew I wouldn't say yes. He thought that the audience, the camera, and the moment would push me through it. It had to feel real to me, he said, but his voice was too calm and casual. They answer better when it's not staged. The words hurt a lot, not staged. This wasn't a play. It was my life. As strangers watched me struggle to stay calm, they felt a tension. They didn't fully understand. I felt exposed and lied to. The horse also heard it, and its ears and feet moved. I whispered to him again to try to calm him down, but I didn't have much energy. I was no longer able to ground myself. Not now that everything is falling apart. I didn't agree with this. And I told you, you crossed the line. He put up his hands like it wasn't a big deal. Yes, it's only a short time. You've done worse things. Come on. This doesn't mean anything. It wasn't nothing, though.
Right there on camera, trust was being broken. It wasn't just that he went live. That was shocking. It was that people in the audience started to talk. Seeing words flash across the screen in real time. They were a little hard to see from where I was, but I caught glimpses of them. Some people were lost. Some people looked amused, but some way too many. They sounded worried. It was clear that there was stress. That wasn't a feel-good video they were watching. They were seeing something that made them feel bad, something real. The worst part came next. In my back pocket, my phone went off over and over. Emails are coming in. Hey, friends, family. Someone asked what was going on. If everything was okay. If the plan called for this. That's when things got really scary. He tried to make me feel better again, but it was too late. The crowd was getting bigger. There was more and more pressure. Now it wasn't just him and me. It wasn't just him. It had to do with the eyes making a decision. It was clear he crossed that line without thinking. I'd ever say no. He was wrong, though. I wasn't going to stay still for a good shot. Not any longer. I stood there for a moment, and it seemed like the whole world had slowed down. The live stream was still going. People were still leaving comments in droves. Even so, my husband kept trying to act like everything was fine, but something had changed inside me. There was no thought in my mind as I walked straight up to the camera and turned it off. The screen went black in an instant. The stream was over. Keep quiet. He looked shocked. What do you have planned? He asked, as if I had just made things worse. I said no, with a firm voice that was still but shaking. What do you have planned? You chose without asking me. You treated our lives like a play, like I was just a part of what you were writing. He didn't say anything for a second. After that, he stopped acting. He said with a shrug, I thought you'd go along with it. People love being real. You were feeling sad. It was true, I snapped. It wasn't yours to share. It wasn't just a cute story, or the horse I showed you. My heart, and you didn't even ask. He seemed to have more to say when he opened his mouth, but then he stopped. He might have known it. Perhaps not. I didn't wait for him to figure it out, though. I walked past him and toward our horse, Max, who was pacing back and forth. I gently stroked his neck and whispered to myself to ground myself in the one person who hadn't tried to make my life a show. That's when the last surprise came. While I was taking Max's halter off so he could run free in the pasture, I saw something in his saddlebag, a small envelope that I hadn't put there. I slowly opened it. There was a folded note inside that was written by my husband. The words were short, but very scary. You saw the messages. I know that I couldn't let everyone know about it. The video had to take their attention away. My hands were shaking. Messages. What did he hide? It wasn't just the live stream or the horse. There was more than that. Now the real story was just getting started. My mind was racing as I stood there with the note in my hands. I could feel my heart beating fast as I tried to understand what I had just read. How many messages? What did he want to hide? When I turned to face my husband, he had been quiet and was staring at me with a confused and guilty look on his face. What does this mean? My voice was barely above a whisper as I asked. Being weighed down by the truth was very real to me. I could feel his heavy sigh. He looked away for a moment before looking back at me. He said in a low voice, "It's not what you think. I meant to keep you safe. This is not how I wanted you to find out."
But he hesitated because he was having trouble putting it into words. "I have been hiding something from you that could make everything worse." The truth hurt more than anything else that had happened. He had been keeping something from me the whole time, and it wasn't just the live stream. It wasn't just the pressure to make content and push the limits. It had more depth. This was about the trust we had built and the things he had been keeping from me, because I still didn't fully understand why. He walked toward me and begged me with his eyes, but I was wrong. I thought that if I could keep your attention on the video and the horse, you wouldn't notice. I'm sorry. I shook my head and started to cry. Where are we now? Trust. Where did it go? He bowed his head and looked like he had lost. I did something wrong. I believed I could handle it and it wouldn't get this far, but I was wrong. It seemed like we stood there for a very long time. We both felt like we had something to say, but couldn't because of the silence. I knew I couldn't go back. Things were different now. The bond we used to have felt weak, and I knew it would take time to fix it, no matter how much I wanted to. Not only between us, but also within myself. I had to rebuild trust. We agreed to take a break after a long talk that night. We needed a place to work things out away from the cameras and the stress. Sometimes the only way to move forward was to take a step back. Things began to get better slowly over the next few weeks. We solved the problems. We learned from our mistakes and came up with new ways to connect with each other. Instead of the camera, Max the horse stayed with us and helped us remember what was important. Finally, we both learned from the mistake and the video was never uploaded. We could never get back the trust and love we had built with our followers or content. It wasn't about the likes. It was about us. Now I knew it would take time, but I knew one thing for sure. I had learned something. The stories we tell ourselves aren't always the most important.